And by the way, the Founding Fathers also had this realization, because many of them were what is called deists. And the deists were basically a kind of a rogue Christian thinking group who really were repulsed by European churches.
It's a rejection of the personal God. Deism says, well, there is a God, but he treats humanity in bulk and not as individuals.
And very intentionally, the word God is not in the U.S. Constitution. Very intentionally. Although the word impeachment is in the Constitution, I think it's 6 times. It's a single thing that they wanted to impress upon people, that when you have a tyrant, that you have to get rid of him and he has to be punished. But unfortunately, the Democratic Party in both Vermont and Washington stopped all impeachment possibilities against Bush and Cheney. And for that, they deserve our eternal damnation.
When I lived in Montreal, I went to a Buddhist temple a couple of times, and they used to chant on rosary, like the Catholic rosary.
Well, there is also, I mean, it predates the Catholic rosary by 1,500 years or 2,000 years.
But is that mainstream Buddhism? They weren't Zen Buddhists. Zen is another form of Buddhism.
Many sects of Buddhism. Yeah.
So does your view of Buddhism include the chanting? Was a very big part of.
As a matter of fact, I use as my yoga. Yoga means union. That's all it means, union with what we think of as the one. Although the Hindus, who thought longer and harder about these things than we did, said, no, don't use union with the one as your goal, a realization of union with the one. Use the word non-dual, because one implies there could be two, or none, or something. So use non-dual, union with the non-dual, meaning that union with what cannot be two of, meaning one. And it's a technicality, it might be a little confusing, but that's how fine they parsed it to get people to understand that if you say one, you might be thinking of two as an alternative. There is no alternative to the entirety of the whole. And so that is what is the, I don't want to say it's a goal, it's a realization of what you already know. Everything, you already know all this within, but you've got to realize it mentally that you know it. It's like knowing how to swim. You may have innately been able to swim just like that, being thrown into the water. Well, it's kind of like that. You are your own authority, spiritually and politically, but you have to know it, because then you can act that way and not let people, especially in a system like ours, run roughshod over you, which is what's happening. And so Buddhism basically put me in this direction of realizing that basically a lot of corrupt people are trying to get away with murder constantly, and they fill government. They're not all our benign little friends who are out there to protect us. They're interested in themselves and their aggrandizement of power. That's why they become career politicians. Nobody gets into a career deciding to stay at the level of a janitor. Everybody wants to move up, and the top is better than midway. So they're all into power, and that means power over us, because the more power they have, the more they have it over us, who have less. Well, again, Buddhism shows that their existence is a colossal equality of all, or non-dual. I don't want to repeat myself.
Well, I wrote up a couple of questions for you here.
Yep.
In November of 2004, there was a radical consultation in Middlebury, Vermont. I believe that this was the start of the secessionist movement in Vermont. In 2008, Professor Thomas Naylor published a book entitled secession, and then on November 7 of 2008, there was a convention on independence in the House chamber of the Vermont State House in Montpelier. Have you read Tom's book, and were you present at either of these meetings?
No, no. At those points, well, that's 2008. In November 2004, the radical consultation, so-called, in Middlebury, I was helping organize the Green Party of Vermont at that point, and I was running for office to promote the awareness of 9/11 with a video that I put together called Treason Inc., and which the job was accomplished, I felt, because there isn't anybody in the country who hasn't at least heard of the alternative explanation to the lie of the government that they were helpless bystanders that day. It's nonsense. So that's what I was doing in 2004. And I have always seen or thought of the secession movement per se, called by that, as impossible to achieve for a couple reasons. One is, if you really focus on the word secession, you bring in Southern Confederate history, which I think is terrible because they were involved in slavery. So let's just show everybody that we're not in favor of that. We're not in favor of Southern Confederacy. Let's stop using the Southern Confederates words. Just call it independence. I'm for independence. But before, and here's the second part, before we can do that, we have to each individually become aware that we must be and then are independent of the evils of the federal government. We need to declare ourselves individually hands-off from the federal government. We're not part of it. We don't want it. We don't like it. It's bad for us. It's bad for the world. The whole 9.5 yards. Before anybody in the state could ever imagine themselves declaring a secession or an independence from the U.S., they have to go through this process. So that's what I'm promoting. I'm promoting what I see as the necessary positive individual mental, well, forget mental, awareness of the evils of the federal government, and therefore then why, and you should feel this within, you shouldn't be part of it anymore. Don't support them. Don't go along with them in any way, shape, or form.